Hello there. I want to pay tribute to Robert Burns and his particular poem that is "My love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June." It's a beautiful, beautiful poem, and as a flower arranger, of course, it's very nice for me to illustrate it. I'm starting with a bunch of twigs, as you can see, just ordinary twigs picked up from the pavement actually, underneath some rather large trees, and a metal wreath ring, which I think you can just about see there. And what I've done is I have bound them onto each other, bound the twigs onto the wreath ring to form it into a heart. That's my tie, so I'm getting the wrong shape, but there's the heart there. And as you can see, I have taped on a piece of Oasis. Now this is slightly damp Oasis. I'm going to hang this outside, so I haven't wrapped it with cling film, but if I was wanting to hang it indoors, then I would obviously put some cling film around it. And I'm going to use very simple plant material from the garden, and of course include some beautiful red roses. First of all, I'm going to use some rubus, which I'm just going to pop in at the side. And then later on, I'm going to use some variegated euonymus, known to everybody. Just tiny little pieces, maybe you can just see it. They're just little green and white pieces of euonymus. So these lovely pieces of rubus just shape into the shape that I want it, which is very nice. And I can start thinking about Robert Burns and what sort of roses he would have seen on his travels. Probably, of course, they would have been the wild roses in the hedgerows. And although he might have seen red ones, I think they're probably all pink. Although up here they do seem to be lovely bright pink, better than where I come from in Hertfordshire, which is very pale, peely-wally pink. Just a little other piece of rubus there, just to reinforce the line. But of course he was beginning to travel, as his fame grew, into country houses and visiting country houses, and there they may well have had red roses growing on the wall, growing on the kitchen wall or the house wall. But I'm thinking also of another man who was born the very same year as Robert Burns, 1759, and he was called Pierre-Joseph Redoutey, and he was French, obviously. Well, he wasn't, he was Belgium, to be honest. He was Belgium, but worked mostly in France, and he loved roses, and of course he was a painter, and many of his prints are around and about even up to today. And he just enjoyed painting all the time. He just loved his flowers. Going to put in some of these little pieces of euonymus now, just to give it a little contrast, and to throw up the dark green, to just variegate the green a little bit. Now in the 1780s, when Burns was beginning to make his mark and make his name, Pierre-Joseph was working at Kew Gardens in London. He'd come across, had been invited across to illustrate a herbarium, and his paintings are still there in Kew, which you can see if you go and visit. But he didn't stay very long in London. I don't think he liked it very much. He was called back to France and became the tutor and painting master of Marie Antoinette. But those historians amongst us will know that rebellion was in the air then, and Marie Antoinette didn't last all that long. But amazingly, Redoutey did. He managed to survive the rebellion, and in fact 10 years later, in 1798, he was the painting master and painting the roses of Josephine Bonaparte. So he had survived all through the Troubles. He painted mostly eglantine roses or damascene roses. They were the red roses that he would have been painting. Nowadays, of course, we have much more choice. And in the gardens, now I have these beautiful red roses, lovely roses. Just going to put in about 3 of them. We have wonderful choice of roses, both for our gardens and from the florist. One in particular that I like is Darcy Russell for the garden. It's an old-fashioned shrub rose and grown by David Austin, a beautiful rose, and has a perfume. And that's the lovely thing about red roses, that mostly red roses have perfume. And really nowadays that's what we miss in roses, both in the garden and buying from the florist. We like to have some scent, and the red roses usually provide us some. It's very sad when they don't. These particularly aren't particularly scented, but they're rather pretty. So let's see if I can get all 5 in. I just managed to get a little bunch of 5 from the florist, and of course they're gearing up now to Valentine's Day, when roses, or the cost of red roses, absolutely triples and quadruples. They are gearing up to be sending out bouquets of red roses to anyone who's lucky enough to receive them. The ones that they use these days are Red Naomi, that's the most popular one, and Mercedes, and one that's called Grand Prix, which I think is just a perfect name. You're determined to come out, aren't you? Absolutely perfect name for a red rose. So one little piece more, and then I think we're just about done. Now I have put on a little piece of ribbon, tartan ribbon, to hang it on the wall outside my house as a tribute really to Rabbie Burns on his special day. And let me hold it up to you. Where's my ribbon gone? Oh, there it is, it's tucked away. And there is my little heart made for Rabbie Burns, and his lovely poem, which goes on, "Oh, my love is like a melody that's sweetly played in tune." A wonderful poem, and I hope a special tribute. Thank you.